So welcome, this is Mobility, and we're going to hopefully give you something to think about in terms of mobility and your organization, and maybe how you can fit it into your organization, or maybe if you already have it, how you may be able to take it to the next level. We're actually going to just start with different products that are available, the devices. We're going to talk about some things that you can download right off the internet, and we're going to just give you an overview of how you can use it in your business. Real quick, hold on one second, John. I just want to pay a quick tribute to Stephen Jobs. Hopefully everyone heard that he passed last night at the young age of 56. I think that to his credit, he was a huge innovator and visionary in terms of kind of what we're going to be talking about here today. So I just want to take a moment and recognize that, because I think 50, 100 years from now, as people look back in history, he's going to be one of those individuals that actually stands out. And here we are, we're actually a part of it, so pretty cool. So our agenda, introduction, we're going to go through some statistics on mobile. It's amazing the breadth of mobility in our world today. Some types of mobile applications, device types, benefits, and then the age-old question of investment. It always comes down to money. So go ahead, John. So real quick, my name is Laura Barker, and I'm Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of Bridgepoint Technologies.
I'm John Gavilan. I'm Vice President and Chief Technology Officer for Bridgepoint Technologies.
I have over 20 years experience in IT and done everything from mainframe all the way up through client server. In terms of mobility, I actually participated in the beta version of Microsoft Mobile back in the early 2000 years, and helped write a book on mobility, and have developed several applications on mobile devices since then.
As far as I'm concerned, I've been in the industry for 15 years, been doing everything from networking to programming. Written some articles about Windows CE back in 2001 and 2002, when the iPhone wasn't there and nobody had a phone that can accept emails. And even back then, Laura and I were working on mobile applications for some forward-thinking companies, where we were using the really old devices, and none of these taking a picture and uploading it to a central server was even available. So we've been around the block, although not with the Apple and the Androids, but with the very old Windows Mobile when it all started.
So very fun. Go ahead. Okay, so we're just going to go through some statistics, and I put these in here just because I think they're kind of fun to see. In 1946, the first mobile telephone service actually became available, and there was only 3 radio channels, and you actually had to go through a manual operator to make that connection. So, just a little over 50 years ago. It's not very long in terms of longevity and where we are in technology. Also, the mobile phone, you had to stay within your coverage area. There was very small coverage areas back then, too. So I know we get upset when we have a dropped call if we're driving down 294, but back then the radius was maybe a mile or 2 miles. I mean, it was very, very small. In 1971, AT&T actually put the proposal in for cellular service to the FCC, but it wasn't actually approved until 1982. So that was 11 years in the making to get that approval so that they can move that mobile phone system more into the mainstream. And that was our analog version. We're actually on a digital version now. The digital version came available in the early 90s. So I threw this in here because I thought, if you haven't seen it, everybody remembers the phone, and I think it's fun. But in 1973, Martin Cooper made the first cellular phone call using a heavy prototype, and he called his competitor and nemesis, Dr. Engel of Bell Labs. So that was kind of history-making back then, but that was actually one of the first ones. If you kind of think even prior to that, though, the first phones, do you remember, I don't know if anybody would here remember, but they were mounted in cars, and they actually had a rotary dial on it. It wasn't the push button that we know of. So you can see the evolution over time of where we've come in terms of mobility. Here's a neat statistic. 5.3 billion mobile subscribers. 77% of the world population is on mobile. I mean, it's amazing to me. You know, I have a teenager right now, and she can't imagine that when I was in college, we didn't have PCs, phones, or the internet. It's hard for her to imagine. How could I survive? Mobile devices in 2010, smartphones were very prevalent, but this year in 2011, they see Android as being the leader in the marketplace in terms of sales. So here's the other fun one. I told this to my daughter as well. I think she's a huge contributor. Text messaging. 8 trillion text messages will be sent this year alone. 8 trillion. I can't imagine how much time has to be spent texting. But that just shows you the power of communication and where communication is happening and what people are doing. They're using their phones. They're actually talking. And it's not only friend to friend or family to friend or that, but it's business. It's employees to employees or owners to individuals or clients to vendors because you will text, hey, I'm going to meet you at 2 o'clock for that meeting that we're going to make. So very, very prevalent. In the last 3 years, there's been over 300,000 mobile apps built. Okay, so if we think in terms of how fast the mobile evolution has been, Android, iPhone, iPad, the ones that are real commonplace now, haven't become common until the last like 4 years, right?
If you put it in perspective, as a developer, developing any kind of app at a minimum would take something very fast would take a couple of days. Something a little bit elaborate would take a couple of weeks. Just factor that in, 300,000 within the last 3 years. That's a lot of development work happening behind the scenes.
Just for phones. Paying by a mobile device. Now this is becoming more mainstream, and we're going to show you a little application later that shows what you can use it for. But $240 billion this year in mobile transactions. It's amazing. You think of a transaction online, that's pretty straightforward. You think of a transaction at a cash register, but mobile transactions, it's a different type. And then paying by mobile device. And then just a few here, 500 million people accessed worldwide in 2009, and they expect that to double within 5 years. So again, you can see if you can take advantage of this in your business, how the scope and the breadth of the reach of what you're doing within your business can actually grow exponentially by using the tools available.
So what this means is right now, commonly way to access the web is through your computer. What they're saying is more and more people are using their mobile phones to access the internet, and it's going to be more of the majority way to access the internet rather than going to your PC.
Right. And more and more are becoming mobile only. So again, everyone's comfortable on the PC or a laptop device, but the mobile is really where they expect people to go. Okay, so from here we're going to actually move into different types of mobile devices, and John and I thought it would be nice just to go through the most prevalent ones in the marketplace today, just to give you a quick rundown of what's available out there and what they look like, because it might be easy if you see a commercial and you think of a commercial and you think of it over and over and over, but it's good to see the breadth of what's out there.
So here's a list of some of the more common mobile devices, and the reason we chose these devices is because they have special characteristics that you would probably be able to use in your business, and that's what we're going to focus on. So let's start with the iPhone. Obviously, everybody knows what the iPhone is. A lot of you probably have it. Priced between $200 to $500. I believe there's some more expensive with a little bit more memory, but it's a cell phone, iPod, get access to internet. There's a camera, GPS. The camera, by the way, the new iPhone that just came out, it allows you to take high-definition videos and very, very high-resolution pictures. And obviously the iPad, this is probably the biggest reason why people are starting to use mobile devices to access the internet. Because accessing the internet over your phone is fine if you need it for an emergency or for something really specific. But what they're talking about is people are actually browsing now away from the PC, and it's mostly because of the iPad and because of the Android tablets. These are the Android devices. some of you probably are very aware of what the difference is between an iPhone and an Android device, but some may not be. iPhone is obviously developed by Apple. Android is an operating system that is installed in many types of phones. So if you want to compare it to the Macintoshes before with Windows on PCs, Dell makes a PC, HP makes a PC, any other company makes a PC, but they all run Windows. With Mac, only Apple makes Macintosh computers, and it only runs the Apple OS. Same thing with the iPhone and the Android. Instead of Microsoft being in charge of the operating system, now Google, they made a deal with these phone manufacturers and say, hey, here's my operating system. You put it in your phone. So they talk to HTC, they talk to Samsung, they talk to whoever they could talk to say, load my operating system, it'll be good. So that's exactly what the difference is.
In terms of development, for if you're looking for development on those, it makes a difference of iPhone or iPad. Apple locks down the system and makes it challenging for a developer to actually go into the application. Now, there are applications that are built that just download, but we're talking about integrated applications, ones that will actually communicate with your business and integrate that data back and forth. Android has a more open system for developers as well as Windows, in which we can get in there and do more open lines of communication. So if you have a back-end server and you want to pass data to your device, we can do that. Not to say we can't do it on iPhone and iPad. Right. I want to make that distinction. It's just in terms of development, it's a little bit different environment.
What that translates to in lay terms is over the years, you're probably going to see a lot more business applications on Androids than on iPhones. And this is because of those restrictions that Apple puts in. You could only develop so much on an iPhone before the Apple, Steve Jobs and all their crew say, nope, you can't put this in the App Store and you can't do this and you can't do that. Android has no restrictions. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. A blessing for that Apple does it because your phone will always be stable. You won't see those crashes. It always works. It's always fast. Android lets you do whatever you want. So you could have developers who could just do anything they want. Next thing you know, your phone is a little slower. So it's a compromise.
Is there any questions on that? Just want to make sure. Good? Yeah.
The features are, right now they're equal. Prior to the release of the iPhone 4S, the Androids have been, I'd say about a couple of years ahead as far as hardware specs. They're faster. They have higher megapixel cameras, meaning you could take higher resolution photos. You were able to take HD video on Androids since a couple years back, whereas right now, you're only able to do that now with the iPhone 4S, which was released just a couple of days ago, I believe. But as far as right now, the iPhone features, you get an iPhone, it's the same everywhere. When you buy an Android, you could buy an Android for $50, and some of them will not have a camera, some of them will not have a GPS, some of them will be slow. You could buy the Android for $500 or $800, and what you get out of it is a better camera, more storage, bigger screen, a crisper screen, and a faster, just a faster device altogether.
Do any of them allow us on a computer and you want to carry it around?
Yes, absolutely. All of them will be able to do that. Could be able to do that. There's. I take it back then. Then the BlackBerry is probably one of those things where if Apple is a little bit locked down, BlackBerry is actually even more locked down than Apple. Yes. So that's probably the exception. Although some BlackBerries are able to do it, you would have to just install some of the applications to open up your Word document or your Excel.
Yes.
Yes.
Viruses.
Viruses, they're inevitable. They will happen. It's probably going to infect the Android world faster than it would the iPhone world. And this is because, when I said it was a blessing and a curse, every time you develop an application for Apple, you have to submit it to Apple. They take a few days. They actually take a look at what's under the covers before they say it's available to the App Store. So you cannot just put anything in there that will possibly infect the iPhone system. There are some companies that are providing protection, but I'd say it's probably premature to start investing on it right now. I'd take a wait and see approach.